Reynolds, any comments or questions?
Question. Taylor?
Commissioner Cush?
Yes, Taylor. Can you go back to the slide, please, 3.8, on the 3.8 language? A question, okay, foster public-private partnerships to continue artist-in-residence programs. What does the word foster mean here? Does that mean set aside funds?
As I stated, Commissioner Cush, as I stated previously, there was discussion about setting aside private funds through that Downtown 2.0 process, but City Council did not want to move forward with that.
So foster doesn't mean set aside funds. If this policy were redacted, would it mean people couldn't do private-public partnerships? Would it mean they're no longer allowed?
Chair and Planning Commission members, no, it wouldn't mean that they couldn't do those public-private partnerships. They're continuing throughout downtown today. It's an aspirational plan, so the goals and policies foster really is about making those connections. So it could be a connection. It might be an artist-in-residence program at the Valley Ho with a gallery on Main Street. It could be a variety of.
No, I know what private-public partners art things are, but I'm just saying if it weren't there, it's not going to necessarily destroy Scottsdale's public art program or
Chair,
make it worse
Chair,
if this language wasn't here.
Chair and Planning Commission, that is correct. However, we do try and support the things that are happening in downtown in the plan based on the existing conditions report and assessment that we've done. So we have a variety of things like canal convergence.
And I'm a big fan of all those. I think they're amazing. But on the other hand, I think it's also important to listen to the citizens. And this is, you know, reading this thing, I mean, we had a lot of letters on this, and more than we've gotten on a lot of other cases. People are saying, look, we're in the business. We don't think it's a good idea. We don't think it helps us. And so to just keep insisting on it is like taking a stick and poking it in the eye of every gallery owner. And why would we do that?
Chair and
Especially if it means taking it out is not going to end the world.
Chair and Planning Commission, we're not trying to poke an eye. Actually, I sent an email to Mr. Pedgman at 4:30 today telling him we could certainly provide a definition in the plan. There isn't one in the glossary today, and we'd be willing to work with him so that it is well defined enough so that they don't feel that it's something other than it's not.
Well, I expect he'll be speaking, so I'll wait to hear from him and see how he feels about it. I just want to make sure that this being here, if it went away, it's not going to damage the whole downtown plan or the arts program in the city of Scottsdale, but instead maybe make some important people in this community feel that they're being listened to. That's all. All right, thanks.
We'll start off with Mr. Bob Pedgman. Mr. Pedgman, if you could state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Lucio and Commissioners. I am Bob Pedgman, gallery owner, Pedgman Gallery, 7130 East Main Street. And I'm speaking on item number 9 and policy number 3.8 specifically. And I'm going to talk about what I initially wrote based on the current understanding. Aaron sent me an email that kind of changes it drastically, but then we got to get to that change somehow. So right now the policy says foster public-private partnerships to continue artist-in-residence programs. Now my issue is no matter what you end up with, this policy is so vague and so loosely worded that they can basically interpret it as anything. Who, when, how much, how often, nothing is stated. Generally speaking, the artist-in-residence programs are instituted in cities that lack arts and culture. They want to inject arts and culture artificially. That's not the case in Scottsdale. In Scottsdale, we have a historic, robust, world-renowned arts district, 40 galleries. We don't need to bring out-of-state artists, prop them up to make this an arts center. It already is. If anything, the city should put more focus on the galleries, which I'm not even asking for here. Now, the concept, based on our definition, was never vetted, and it's never gotten council approval. That's true. So now, I received an email from Aaron Perot that said that that is not the understanding, that's not their plan. That back in 2009, in the downtown plan, there was a definition which was equally loosely worded, which basically was open to any interpretation. So to continue that forward, how smart is that, seriously? So we need to define it. In fact, part of what I'm reading from Erin's email, she's citing canal convergence, which is really not even Scottsdale Arts District, it's downtown, Andaz Resort, Cattle Track, which are not even in downtown. They don't even constitute artist in residence programs. So this has to be defined, and either strike it, as Mr. Kush stated, you strike it, you're not losing anything. Anything can still be done as a public or private partnership and go before the council, and they may or may not approve it, such as the case is now. So either do that or put this concrete wording to say something like the downtown plan should state under 3.8 that the artist in residence does not include artists having studios and residences in downtown Scottsdale, be it subsidized or not. So we need to basically fine-tune this so everybody knows what it is and what it is not. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Pishman?
Done?
Is it safe to assume that you speak for a majority of the gallery
Yes.
owners?
Yes. I can deliver 30, 40 signature petition by next week if I have to. I don't really want to do it.
And your
Yes.
preference is that just this particular language be struck from the plan?
I would prefer, because it's so ambiguous that many view it as a placeholder, that then later on they can put anything on it and say, well, that was the intention back then. And God knows what the intention was back then when you look at it in 2020. You don't know what it is. It's just embedded in there and remains nebulous.
All right, thank you.
Any comments or questions? Commissioner Kush.
As to 3.8, you know, selling art is a difficult thing. I think that if the city had an ordinance that encouraged people, hotels, to sell new cars in their parking lots on weekends, or anything like that, that all the car dealers would be down here screaming, saying, why are you doing that? Yet Scottsdale seems to do a pretty good job of competing with the art galleries. I'm talking about the tents, the two large tents. I'm talking about the art shows along the canal. I wouldn't want to own an art gallery and have to compete with each of those, where I'm paying rent and I'm building a building and the whole deal, and these folks get to set up a tent on a weekend and undersell me. So consequently, I think when the art community comes to us, the art business community comes to us and said, look, there's some language in this thing that is not going to hurt anyone if it goes away, but it would really make us feel better if it went away. And we're sort of, you know, we have a lot to do with Old Town. We're a big part of Old Town. So therefore, I support this plan, but I would like to propose an amendment that 3.8 be struck from the plan. And council can make up their mind if they think that's a good idea. But for my part, I think that I would recommend approval, or I will when you call for a motion, subject to 3.8 language being removed from the document.
Thank you, Commissioner Kush. Commissioner Serena, did you have a comment?
Yeah, can staff address 3.8? I was going to ask about that. You had mentioned canal convergence. Removing this, I know the city's invested heavily financially in that. That's not going to affect the investment in canal convergence, correct?
Chair and members of the commission, no. Scottsdale Arts does a variety of artist in residence programs, so they run some out of the Old Town livery here in historic Old Town, where they have artists that come for a short period of time and do a variety of different, usually it's temporary art pieces or experiential art. Some pieces as part of canal convergence are also the temporary art pieces that are artists in residence that are here for a short period of time as well. It wouldn't preclude that from happening as part of that program.
I'd support removing 3.8.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Serena. Any other? Commissioner Young.
Then what does 3.8 provide if it doesn't, by getting rid of it, if it doesn't change anything?
Chair and Planning Commissioners, it just provides a recognition that we do have those types of programs as part of our extended art program. So the Scottsdale Arts District is just one district in downtown, but as everyone in the room knows, there's a lot of different arts and cultural types of offerings that the city has, particularly in downtown. So it just recognizes some of those other ones that aren't gallery associated.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. If there's no additional comments for staff, then we'll go ahead and ask for a motion on item number 9.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 721ZN 2017, per staff recommendation stipulations after determining that the proposed zoning district map amendment with an infill incentive district and development plan are consistent and conform with the adopted general. Oh, wrong one, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Maybe we start over on that.
All right, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve 1GP 2018 downtown plan update with the caveat that the language of 3.8, is that the section?
It is.
Be stricken from the plan.
Chair, just for clarification, it's AC 3.8 because we have more than one 3.8 in the plan.
EC 3.8, thank you.
Was that AAC as in Alessio?
Yes, A is a list.
Okay, very good.
As an aggravating.
Larry, turn off your microphone. All right, so we do have a motion to recommend approval for 1GP 2018. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Faki. All in favor, as the motion stated?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Very good. Motion passes 7-0.